We worked together through the Delaware Ornithological Society for years. And before he went to work for the state, he's been working for the state since the days of the Breeding Bird Atlas, when he was the state employee in charge of that. And since then, he's done a variety of jobs within the Division of Fish and Wildlife, and he is now the director of the Delaware Bayshore Initiative. But I also wanted to mention that one of the reasons that we originally had the idea for this program was because we were going to do it last year on Earth Day, and it was going to be highlighting what was believed to be the 10th anniversary of the Scholars Guild and the role that Stephen Threefoot had in reinvigorating the Scholars Guild. And he was also how I got to know him was what DuPont Clear into the Future. And I don't know that people in Arden knew he was quite as involved with that, but he, through his work at DuPont, was very involved in the early days of getting interest and money put toward Delaware's Bayshore, both at Mispillion Harbor and with the DuPont Nature Center down on the riverfront. So it was kind of in his honor that we thought it'd be good to highlight an environmental aspect of Delaware, and the Delaware Bayshore comes to mind because there's been a whole lot going on there that Anthony's going to talk with us about tonight. So the floor is yours, Anthony.
Great. Thank you, Sally. And thank you everyone for having me here tonight. This is quite exciting for me because this is really the first talk I've been able to do since the whole COVID saga began. And I'm really excited to share with you tonight my passion for the Delaware Bayshore. And let me share my screen here. Here we go. And hopefully that shows up for everyone. Okay, great. So tonight, my talk is going to be centered on the Delaware Bayshore Initiative. And I'll go through a little bit about how the Bayshore Initiative got started, a little bit of its background. I'm going to talk a little bit about the conservation that the Bayshore Initiative is focused on. And then I'm going to take you on a little tour down the Bayshore from Newcastle to Lewes, highlighting some of the great things that have occurred, some of the great places to visit, and some of the great work that's yet to be done throughout our very special Delaware Bayshore region. Again, my name is Anthony Gonzon. I'm with the Delaware Department of Natural Resources and Environmental Control, specifically the Division of Fish and Wildlife. And there I'm a planner that's responsible for coordinating the Delaware Bayshore Initiative. Let's see. Okay. So the Delaware Bayshore Initiative, what exactly is it? The area that we're talking about for the Delaware Bayshore runs from Newcastle down to about Cape Henlopen in Lewes, not quite into south of Lewes, but all the way to Cape Henlopen. And this area contains all kinds of spectacular habitats, ranging from our coastal tidal marshes, places like Bombay Hook and Prime Hook, all the little beaches that occur from even Pickering Beach, Kitts Hummock, down to Broadkill Beach and even Lewes. And then all of the rich forests and expansive farmlands that have been there for generations inland from our coastline. It also contains a number of what we call coastal impoundments. These are impounded wetlands that were impounded for a variety of reasons, including mosquito control and waterfowl habitat. And they occur throughout this region as well. We also have a lot of rare freshwater wetlands, particularly in the northern part of the Bayshore around in Newcastle County. The Bayshore is also ripe with streams and rivers that flow inland to the bay, some of which are very tidal, particularly as you approach the bay. And along them, we have a number of communities, both inland and along the coast, that have been there for generations, taking advantage of these streams and river systems. It's also what we consider a quiet refuge for the wildlife and people who really want to get outdoors and see what Delaware's wild side, the Delaware Bayshore, has to offer. So I promise not all of my slides are this text heavy. We're going to get through a couple here, and I apologize if they're a little painful. Don't need to read them if you don't want to. I want to touch on a little bit on the history of the Delaware Bayshore. Going back several decades, forethought from some of our political leaders and our conservation leaders here in the state got together because they really wanted to do what they could to sort of halt all the development, particularly the industrial development that was occurring in our Delaware Bayshore region. They saw the value of the habitats, the wildlife, and they wanted to preserve this area in as pristine a condition as they could for many, many generations to come. And this really kicked off with former Governor Russell Peterson, who eventually was able to pass the Delaware Coastal Zone Act of 1971. That act has done wonders for protecting the Bayshore environment from all of this widespread industrial development, particularly with the oil companies. Following that, in 1973, Delaware's Wetlands Act offered a lot of additional protections to both our tidal wetlands and some of the other areas around the Bayshore that was closely associated with them. That led to this formation of what we considered the Delaware Bayshore Initiative. I'm sorry? Oh, sorry about that. That led to the formation of the Delaware Bayshore Initiative. And in developing this initiative, this occurred in about 2012. The state of Delaware, as were all 50 states, were challenged by then Department of Interior, U.S. Department of Interior Secretary Ken Salazar, to develop projects, 2 projects per state, to consider for America's great outdoors. And of Delaware's 2 projects, one of them we put forward was the Delaware Bayshore Initiative, which would focus on what we built upon from Governor Peterson's foresight and the Wetlands Act and the Coastal Preservation Act, building on that to do more for land conservation and restoration, improve what we have in terms of recreation and education within our Bayshore region, and engage all those local communities. What we really wanted to do was support this Bayshore region by marrying those 3 objectives and providing a scenario where everyone can come together to support a non-regulatory program that would do nothing but benefit the habitats, the wildlife, and the people who call the Bayshore home. One of the things we like to really promote is that more than 50% of that 220,000 acres is currently under some level of protection in the Delaware Bayshore region. And if you look here, we have green areas here. These are the state lands that are under current preservation. These are all preserved in perpetuity as state wildlife areas, and in some cases, state parks up in Delaware City and down in Lewes. The purple areas are national wildlife refuges. These are really special areas that are, again, also preserved in perpetuity. These orange spots here, these orange places, they're very important for the Delaware Bayshore Initiative and the Bayshore as a whole, because these represent the holdings of our conservation partners, our private land conservation partners, who preserve these lands without any of the federal or state input into how they go about purchasing them. They do get some funding from us, but for the most part, they manage them for the purpose of wildlife and habitat. And then we also have preserved farmlands. And preserved farmlands, while still used for agriculture, that's a very, very important part of the Delaware Bayshore. It's not all about the wild spaces. It's also about the culture and heritage that has been developed in the Bayshore region over the last 200 to 300 years. Currently, we have about 32,000 plus acres in state wildlife areas and parks, 26,000 in federal wildlife refuges, and over 12,000 in private conservation organizations. There's some additional lands that are preserved by the state, county, and municipal agencies, totaling about 5,000 acres. And then, of course, ag preservation comes in at about 39,000 acres. So early on, one of the challenges the Delaware Bayshore Initiative faced was a strategy. How do we go about preserving, protecting, restoring the lands in the Delaware Bayshore area, the waters of the Delaware Bayshore area, without clear and achievable goals? So we gathered together all of our partners, including folks like the Nature Conservancy, Delaware Ornithological Society, Delaware Greenways, Delaware Nature Society, the Conservation Fund, Delaware Wildlands, Ducks Unlimited, Kent County Conservancy, and the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service to collaborate on what we call Delaware Bayshore Forever. This strategy lays out the groundwork to achieve goals within the Delaware Bayshore area to continue to conserve, restore, and preserve land, open access to the public, and also provide opportunities for local communities to benefit from that, both economically and by preserving their culture and history. I'm just going to touch on a few of these goals that we have laid out. First, I'd like to point out, if you're looking at this map here, what you'll see is there are 5 different zones, beginning with the lower Delaware River in the north and the lower Delaware Bayshore in the south. Each one of these zones was considered slightly different, and we developed goals and strategies specific to them to encompass very specific habitat types, very specific risks and threats to those areas, and things that can be done within those areas based on the existing protected lands. For example, at Bombay Hook in the central Delaware Bayshore region, we focused on marsh restoration projects, as well as invasive species, because we all know Phragmites, the common reed, is very pervasive throughout the Delaware Bayshore, but nowhere more than in the central Bayshore region. So the goals that we set forward, first of all, we wanted to protect at least an additional 12,500 acres. This is going to happen in probably the next 10 to 15 years is what we were setting out to do. We wanted to increase the adaptation and resiliency of any of the projects that might occur within these areas, meaning that we want to be able to adapt quickly to challenges and conditions on the ground, to things like climate change and sea level rise, but also make sure that the projects that we complete are resilient to those factors as well. So not placing things in flood zones, or ensuring that if we were to experience high water, that our infrastructure would be protected. We wanted to increase forest buffers. So, taking a little bit of ag land and buffering the forests by reforesting some ground and creating a better buffer between low early successional habitat and the more mature forest to prevent the spread of invasive species. We wanted to connect and expand small woodland patches to make larger patches. Again, manage our invasive species, which doesn't just include the invasive Phragmites australis. It may also include insects and other plant pests that are currently risks to many of our habitats and other species. We want to ensure that we can restore the natural water flow in tidal areas, enhance existing dikes and water control structures so that we can better manage water in some of our impounded wetlands, reduce shoreline erosion, especially in areas along our coastal beaches where we see erosion occurring at an increased rate every year. And lastly, balance the human uses of these areas with the needs of the wildlife and the habitats there to ensure that anything we're doing does not have a negative impact. So one of the things I want to do in terms of conservation is just touch a little bit about one of our most ambitious and most rewarding projects to date, the Mississippian Harbor Restoration Project. If you're familiar with birds and birding in Delaware, you've probably visited the Mississippian Harbor, located just north of the town of Slaughter Beach in Kent County and just east of the town of Milford. Mississippian Harbor is globally renowned for its importance to the federally threatened red knot shorebird, because the harbor is a protected place where horseshoe crabs can spawn during the month of May, which allows the birds to arrive at about the same time to feast on their eggs, fatten up, and make their way to the Arctic where they will nest. Here on the left, you can see a photo of what horseshoe crab eggs look like. These high fat content eggs are critical for the survival of the red knot. Red knots do not have the capacity or capability to feed on these eggs, do not gain enough weight to make it all the way to the Arctic, or if they do, they're not in good breeding condition, resulting in population level declines that we've experienced over the last 30 to 40 years. Every year, there's a lot of research that goes on down at Mississippian Harbor to study these birds and track how their population is doing in response to management actions that we take both in the harbor and throughout the Delaware Bay region. Right after Hurricane Sandy, the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service and the federal government made available funding for states most impacted by that hurricane and storms previously. And we believe Mississippian Harbor was probably one of the most critical Delaware could apply for funding for. The reason why is, if you're looking at this map, on the right-hand side, this is the Mississippian Harbor. Located here, this little red roof, this is the DuPont Nature Center. This is the Mississippian River. To the south of the Mississippian River, which is off screen, is Cedar Creek, right here. Cedar Creek and Mississippian meet here in the harbor and flow out of the Mississippian Inlet. However, due to these storms and due to other tidal factors, there's been massive erosion occurring along this rock wall that prevents erosion, that's supposed to prevent erosion around the harbor. This was very concerning because if this area is totally breached by the Mississippian River, the river will then start to flow north of the wall and out into the bay, and effectively sealing off this entire harbor. This harbor would become silted in and be no longer available for horseshoe crabs, shorebirds, or the important commerce that occurs in the Delaware Bay region. That's basically based out of Slaughter Beach. So the state of Delaware and the Delaware Division of Fish and Wildlife, along with our conservation partners, applied for funding through the Hurricane Sandy Relief Fund. And we were awarded for this project a little over $4 million. Here on the left, you can see where that breach is just becoming much worse as storms keep pounding on the coast. And this is what it looked like prior to the restoration project in July 2015. Our goal through the restoration project was to extend the wall back, then into the marsh, and build up sand deposits using rock groins coming off this wall, in the hopes that it would control the erosion and provide plenty of habitat for the birds and the crabs. Here, during 2017, during the restoration, you can see that we were able to complete the wall into the marsh. This rock wall is pretty well completed at this point, and we're just starting construction of our rock groins here. Following construction, in post-restoration, you can see now that we have this really well-constructed wall, all of the sandy beach habitat, and these groins here that continue to catch sediment as they flow down and out of the Mississippian River and then out into the bay. So it's not lost to the bay, but instead captured here, helping to maintain these beaches and restore them after large storm events come through and remove some of the sand material. So that project for us was a complete success. Immediately after completion, in May of 2018, we saw the return of the crabs and the shorebirds that began to use this new habitat for the first time ever. The concentration of red knots and horseshoe crabs here was just as impressive as it had been prior to all this damage occurring. And we know that going forward from there, because of the research that's conducted, that the birds continue to return to the harbor in great numbers each spring to feast on those horseshoe crab eggs and preserving the most critical location for this species throughout the entire Delaware Bay region. So that was our conservation focus. And I'm going to touch on a few additional conservation projects as we move forward. Moving on, I want to take you on this little quick tour down the Bayshore. And when we finish, I'm hoping I have enough time to share with you an 11-minute video that will really touch on all of these things that I'm talking about tonight and really bring home the message about the importance of the Delaware Bayshore area. First, though, I'm going to tell you a little bit about the Delaware Bayshore Byway. Many of you may have been on Route 9 in Newcastle County, down into Kent County, traveling past places such as Port Penn, Lipstick, Bombay Hook, Little Creek, and those sorts of places. And that was formerly called the Coastal Heritage Byway, the Route 9 Coastal Heritage Byway. But in about 2012, with the inception of the Delaware Bayshore Initiative, we petitioned to change the name of the byway to the Delaware Bayshore Byway. That was very successful. And now our byway extends from Newcastle down Route 9 and beyond, with many connector roads leading all the way down to Lewes. It covers over 100 miles, And in the future, we're hoping to actually coordinate with New Jersey's Bayshore Heritage Byway to make a complete bay-wide loop where you would connect via the Delaware Memorial Bridge and the Cape May Lewes Ferry. Just recently, we nominated this byway for All-American Byway and National Scenic Byway status, which are the highest levels that can be designated to a byway in the United States, and potentially open up funding for amenities and additional improvements along this byway. And if you haven't checked it out, please, 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 on a nice weather day, take a cruise down Route 9. I promise you won't be disappointed. So the Delaware Bayshore region has many places to go and many things to do. But I'm going to just touch on some of what I consider some of the best. With a focus on nature, culture, history, and Delaware's wild side, all the while touching on some of the projects we've completed and some of the restoration that's occurred. So starting in the north, the city of Newcastle is the northern gateway to our Bayshore. And Newcastle is steeped in history and culture. It's some of the oldest places that we have in Delaware, and really, really sends the message home about how important the Delaware Bayshore area is through the colonial times as Delaware was just forming as a state. The Newcastle County Courthouse, part of the First State National Park, is a wonderful visit on a nice day. Walking the town, visit the Kalmar Nickel when it's around. If it's not docked there, it might be further up in the city of Wilmington. Here you can see some of the colonial aspects of the city of Newcastle. We like to consider it part of the birth of our nation. Being the first state, we hold a special place in the history of our nation. And here's a photo at the bottom of the Newcastle County Courthouse. Moving a little further south to Delaware City and the Augustine State Wildlife Area and the community of Port Penn. Here we have Fort Delaware and Pea Patch Island. Fort Delaware is a historic fort, whereas Pea Patch Island is the place that the fort is located, and also houses one of the largest heron rookeries north of Florida on the East Coast, with several thousand birds nesting there annually, ranging from great blue herons to great egrets, to black-crowned night herons and cattle egrets. We also have the Mike Castle Trail. So if you're a biker and you've not visited the Mike Castle Trail, it's a fantastic ride that you can take from Delaware City along the north side of the Delaware and Chesapeake Canal all the way through to Maryland, where it connects with Chesapeake City in Maryland. We also have the Ashton Historic District and the Ashton Tract, particularly part of the Augustine Wildlife Area, located in this general vicinity, right on the 1,000-acre marsh. And I'll show you some great photos and talk a little bit about that in a second. You also get to experience the flair of the local culture of a river town here in Delaware City and in the community of Port Penn, where the shipping industry was very important, particularly in the 1800s.
He says, nope, you get that son of a bitch. He says that's right.
Here's a photo of Fort Delaware and a sign just pointing out to the directions to the Mike Castle Trail. The Mike Castle Trail has multiple access points that you can use to take your bike, ride a horse if you've got horses, walk your dog, or just take a nice hike. The Port Penn Interpretive Center, located at the corner of Port Penn Road in the town of Port Penn and Route 9, is a great place to visit when they're open. I'm not sure that they're open right now, but when they do, they hold all of the historic artifacts regarding the town of Port Penn and its fur trading history going back decades. So here at the 1,000-acre marsh, which I pointed out earlier, we have the Ashton Tract. The Ashton Tract contains two large parcels of land known as the Bennett Farm and the Yardley Dale Farm originally, that were purchased through a program called the National Coastal Wetlands Conservation Grant Program. That program offers money to preserve coastal wetlands in very specific states that have very high risk or at-risk wetlands, Delaware being one of them. Those lands were purchased, and during that process of writing the grant, we included things like amenities to help the public Come visit these places and engage directly with those wetlands and with the wildlife that exists there to learn more about and appreciate places like 1,000 Acre Marsh. A lot of people ask, is 1,000 Acre Marsh really 1,000 acres? It's actually more. Here's a photo of the trailhead at Ashton Tract that you can visit. This being a part of a state wildlife area. If you do decide to visit some of these state wildlife areas, keep in mind that a conservation access pass would be required, and those can be purchased online, much like Delaware State Park passes. There's an excellent viewing platform located at the Ashton Tract that overlooks the marsh. This is actually looking northwards, almost to the C&D Canal, which is located right here. And if you're standing on this deck, you can actually watch the ships go up and down the canal as well. A little further south, just north of the town of Port Penn, is the Lang Dyke, or Lang Marsh, where we have a brand new boardwalk and viewing deck looking out over the Lang Marsh, and from which you can actually see the Delaware River. There we also offer information for the byway traveler and information about the wildlife area if you're interested in learning more about what you may or may not do at these locations. A little further south on the Bayshore, but still in Newcastle County, is the Blackbird Creek Reserve. This reserve is part of the Delaware National Estuarine Research Reserve, which also includes the St. Jones near Kitsummik. This is a great place to visit if you're looking for a good trail to hike, or you want to take a canoe or kayak trip down the Blackbird Creek. Recently, the Delaware Bayshore Initiative contributed funding to build a new pavilion, upgrade their parking, and help them host their Blackbird Creek Fall Festival. This is a massive festival held each October and focuses on the culture and history of the area, as well as the natural resources. If you wish to visit the Blackbird Creek Reserve, you'll notice that there are plenty of trails. I would say this is one of the most underappreciated spots we have in Delaware. And it's very easy to get to right off Blackbird Landing Road. Route 13 is just a little bit over to the west here, and it only takes about 10 minutes to get here from the town of Middletown. This is the Blackbird Creek, and the canoe and kayak access launch is right here. Creek is tidal, so if this is something you'd be interested in trying out, one of the things you want to do is just mind the tides. Excuse me. Here are some photos from the Blackbird Creek Fall Festival. Like I said, they really do focus on the culture and history, both with native peoples and the local colonials that inhabited this area back in the 1700s and 1800s. Just over the line in Kent County along Route 9 and the Bayshore Byway is the Aquatic Resources Education Center. This is a Division of Fish and Wildlife facility dedicated to aquatic resources, teaching thousands of kids over the years about the salt marsh environment, the habitats, the wildlife, and also offering programs to get kids and even adults involved in things like fishing and outdoor recreation. It offers a number of different trails, including a very special history trail that's about a 1/4 mile long, covering the history of the area through interpretive signs. It has a 900-foot salt marsh boardwalk trail and a pavilion that offers a spot to sit down and have lunch. It's located immediately off Route 9, just near Lighthouse Road, again, just south of the county line between Newcastle and Kent. Offering programs for 5th graders, they have an Eco Explorers program, which has been running for several decades now. And that has taught just thousands of kids about the importance of the wetland habitats and allows them to get hands-on. Unfortunately, COVID right now has us halting the programs, but we have come up with some virtual programs so that the kids still can engage with the information that we provided at this program. Soon to come here will be a brand new canoe and kayak launch. I know it's somewhat difficult to see, but there is a brackish water pond located right here on the left-hand corner. This is a shallow water pond, and the Bayshore Initiative is working to, 1, improve access to this pond, and 2, restore the water conditions and water quality and water level ability in this pond by replacing a water control structure located right about here. The new canoe and kayak launch is going to be located here, right off of Route 9, and it's going to provide great opportunities for folks who have never tried canoeing or kayaking before to take that opportunity right there in a very safe environment. Additionally, we're going to be offering, hopefully, fishing classes so folks can learn how to fish from a canoe or kayak, again, in a safe environment and in a very controlled place where they can become used to it before trying more difficult areas. Once we're able to open our centers back up, I would encourage everyone to go out and visit our Aquatic Resources Education Center. We do have some exhibits there right on the porch, and we have a couple on the inside as well. They may not be open all days, but definitely visit the porch and take the trail over to the fishing ponds located just to the west or just to the east of them. Here's a photo of some of the programs we offer. This is a Take a Kid fishing program. And this program, the Delaware Bayshore Initiative, participates with the Division of Fish and Wildlife's Aquatic Resources program to host programs like this in order to get kids outside and get them engaged and teach them how to fish. When you're there, check out the map for other opportunities to hike and just view wildlife. Moving a little further south in Kent County is Bombay Hook National Wildlife Refuge and the town of Lipsick. Bombay Hook is by far the most visited location in the state of Delaware for bird watching. It cannot be beat. And if you've not visited Bombay Hook, now is a great time. There are tons and tons of ducks and other waterfowl located there, and the migrating birds will be returning soon with shorebirds beginning any day now. There is a very long loop drive. This is where Bombay Hook's located. There's a loop drive that goes around 3 large coastal impoundments here. And you don't even have to get out of your car to view the wildlife. Bring your camera, because I guarantee you're going to get some great shots. Once you finish up there, you can head a little bit further south to visit the nearby town of Lipsick, where they're really focused on maintaining their local culture. This is a small, quiet town with a rich history in crabbing and oystering. A couple photos here of Bombay Hook National Wildlife Refuge. They have 3 observation towers. They're a little challenging to get up, but if you're able to, you can take a walk to the top, and they're about 20 to 25 feet high off the ground, allowing very, very nice expansive views of the marsh and the wetlands. As you can see, birders by the dozen. Sally, I think you might be in here somewhere, but birders by the dozens go to Bombay Hook to view even the most common of wildlife, just because it's so accessible. The town of Lipsick is trying to make a name for itself now that it's become even more engaged with the Delaware Bayshore and Delaware Bayshore Byway. In 2017, they launched their first annual Lipsick Oyster Festival, holding their second in 2018. Unfortunately, in 2019, I believe they had their third, but last year, of course, it was canceled. And we're hoping that we might be able to see something later this year in October, celebrating the oystering culture of the town of Lipsick. They still have a number of working watermen located in town, harvesting oysters and crabs throughout the season. Little Creek, Pickering Beach, and Kitts Hummock. Moving further south in Kent County, east of Dover, these 3 areas are very important for the Delaware Bayshore because they really mark the transition of just the coastal marsh areas reaching the bay to more small beach communities located along the bay. Little Creek, being a little inland, currently hosts a brand new boat ramp and kayak launch right on the Little River, constructed by the Delaware Division of Fish and Wildlife with contributions from the Delaware Bayshore Initiative. The town is very engaged with the initiative and the Byway because they're looking to boost their local economy by promoting the outdoor recreation opportunities located throughout the town. This is where the Delaware Bayshore Initiative comes in to assist this local community in developing these opportunities for outdoor recreation, ecotourism, and just providing places for people to go when they come to the town of Lipsick. Little Creek. The town of Little Creek also recently installed a brand new dog park, and the wildlife areas associated with this town provide excellent hunting and fishing opportunities. especially, as I mentioned earlier, at the new boat ramp, where there's a fishing pier and crabbing pier available to anyone who doesn't have a boat. The Little Creek Wildlife Area is an absolutely wonderful spot to go if you're looking for migrant waterfowl, particularly this time of the year, or if you want to go deer or turkey hunting later in the season. These small, quiet communities, while they're small and quiet, they do still occur pretty close to the busier town of Dover, or the city of Dover. So you're not all that far away from other amenities that might not be offered in Pickering Beach, Kitts Hummock, or Little Creek. Here's some photos of the new boat ramp that the Bayshore Initiative contributed to. You can see here we have a bike rack for those bikers that are visiting, traveling down Route 9 for a day trip. This is the fishing pier, which basically follows the shoreline of the little river. The canoe and kayak launch with great handles to allow you easy access. And of course, the boat ramp, which provides access directly to Little River for vessels, about to 25 feet would be about the max here. More recently, though, in the Little Creek Wildlife Area, the Division of Fish and Wildlife and the Delaware Bayshore Initiative were very excited to unveil this. This is our restored and renewed Little Creek Boardwalk and Wildlife Viewing Tower, named in honor of former DNREC Secretary David S. Small. This tower offers an elevated boardwalk ramp that goes up to about 18 feet, reaching this first level of the tower with stairs reaching to the second level. The entire structure is completely accessible to folks with handicaps or disabilities and mobility challenges. In fact, this entire lower level is dedicated to folks with mobility challenges that can't walk the steps to make sure that they have a suitable experience here viewing wildlife and taking in all that the Bayshore offers at this location. This place is accessible to the public, but remember, you would need a conservation access pass for the Little Creek Wildlife Area. If you do visit, we have a number of interpretive signs there also, highlighting the wildlife and the habitats that are located around the boardwalk and the tower. Just north of the town of Little Creek, we have the Port Mahon Fishing Pier, which is highly used throughout the summer months by local anglers trying to catch spot, weak fish, or croaker when they're available. Below is the Dickinson Plantation, located just west of Kitts Hummock and the Ted Harvey Conservation Area. And here, this photo shows one of the most spectacular events here in Delaware. In May, this is a photo of the horseshoe crab spawning occurring right on Kitts Hummock Beach, just west of Dover. If you've not visited during this time, it's definitely a sight to behold. The town of Bowers, just a little further south from the town of Dover, we move off of Route 9 on the Bayshore Byway and onto Route 1 and spur roads that connect a lot of the small local communities to the Bayshore Byway. The town of Bowers is the northernmost of those communities. They offer tremendous opportunities for people along the Bayshore, including food with 2 restaurants, fishing, and festivals. And I will tell you, I'll touch on one of their festivals in a moment. They are definitely not to be missed. They have plenty of beach access and parking for the public. They have a walking tour that focuses on their cultural history. And there is a Bowers Beach Maritime Museum that hosts artifacts from the community of Bowers Beach and its long-standing fishing culture. From the town of Bowers Beach, you can see here Captain's Lady, the last remaining headboat located in the town of Bowers, the Murder Kill River, which flows between the town of Bowers and South Bowers, the museum, and here, their most famous festival, the Pirate Festival, Buccaneer Bash, that's held every Memorial Day weekend. Here I want to talk about another conservation project that occurred. This one not necessarily on state lands, but within the community of Bowers Beach. Here in Bowers Beach, the Division of Fish and Wildlife owns a very large 4+ acre asphalt parking lot. This parking lot was used throughout the 60s, 70s, and 80s for parking for anglers and boaters who were targeting weak fish in the Delaware Bay. The weak fish population in the Delaware Bay was bountiful, and it was the prime target for most anglers going to Bowers Beach. At times, this entire parking lot would be filled with vehicles and trailers as people boarded a number of different headboats and charter boats to head out to try and make their catch. Unfortunately, the decline of the weak fish population has basically killed off the majority of the anglers that were visiting this town. And I'm sorry, I shouldn't say killed off. The anglers are not visiting as much as they had in the past. And now we're faced with this issue where we have a large asphalt area that's beyond its useful life and in very bad need of repair, but we really don't have the need to repave this entire area. So working directly with the community of Bowers, the Delaware Bayshore Initiative, along with other folks in the Delaware Division of Fish and Wildlife and the Division of Watershed Stewardship in DNREC, got together to develop a concept plan to convert a portion of this asphalt parking lot to green space. Through this, we applied for and received what's called a strategic opportunity for adaptation grant offered by the DNREC Division of Climate, Coastal, and Energy to do adaptation projects, climate change adaptation projects, just like this, to reduce things like impervious surface or the asphalt, improve drainage, and overall provide a more natural setting, a more green setting in the face of climate change. This concept plan also included the idea that we would lease this area, the state would lease this area to the town of Bowers for use as a community park. After a couple of years of back and forth, a lot of design work, and ultimately construction, we are well on our way. Phase one of the project is complete. As you can see here on the left, we do have brand new green space and park space located in the town of Bowers. It also included dedicated parking for the community along their main street and beach access. We also widened the buffer strip here between the community lot and the remaining fish and wildlife lot that is part of our phase two for the Bowers Beach parking lot. Overall, this has been a huge success and been well received by the town as a place that people can go now, sit quietly, enjoy the outdoors, and not think about all that hard-packed asphalt that used to be located here. Phase two of this project is well underway, and we're looking forward to reducing the impervious surface of that pavement even more. We're still going to offer some locations for boaters and anglers because we still do have some busy weekends there. However, we are going to convert more of the asphalt habitat into meadow located on either side. In addition, there are drainage ditches that parallel these areas. Unfortunately, these drainage ditches become easily clogged and are a maintenance nightmare. In order to remedy that, we're going to move to a more green-friendly, climate-friendly adaptation of these ditches by creating meandering swales for drainage around the area where these ditches currently occur. This will allow water running off any of the impervious surface to first drain through the meadow habitat, hopefully being absorbed by the majority of this habitat area. And the water that does make it to the swale, because of these meanders, it will move slower out to the actual drainage system, which makes its way to the Murderkill River. With better infiltration, it'll only increase and improve the water quality located in the town of Bowers, while also reducing all this impervious surface and adding brand new habitat to the area to make this area a complete destination for the town. Now heading down into the Mississippian Harbor and Slaughter Beach. Mississippian Harbor and Slaughter Beach are located in the northern end of Sussex County. Here we have the DuPont Nature Center, and as I mentioned, that large Mississippian Harbor project earlier. This is the place for shorebirds and horseshoe crabs. If you've not witnessed this spectacle, please, please, please head out there this May. Go around the time of a full moon and high tide. You will not be disappointed. There will be hundreds and hundreds of birds there, and crabs will be spawning all over the beach. You'll witness a spectacle that occurs nowhere else on this planet. The Cedar Creek Boat Ramp, offered by the Division of Fish and Wildlife, offers direct access to the Cedar Creek for boaters and anglers making their way out to the Delaware Bay. Further down in the town of Slaughter Beach, we have the Marshall Salt Marsh Preserve. This is a Delaware Nature Society property, which recently received some money from DelDOT to do improvements to design and construct a boardwalk and a viewing deck looking out over the marsh to the west of town. The Delaware Bayshore Initiative played a role in accomplishing this by providing some funding for the design phase of this project. And of course, Slaughter Beach cannot be mentioned without saying that they have plenty of beach access, located approximately every 1/4 mile along Slaughter Beach Road, running directly through town. Here on the left, I mentioned the Shorebird Spectacle. All of those birds there, if you count them, and I haven't, there's probably 200 to 300 birds just in this photo alone. The red knot, the one species that most of us talk about when we talk about the Mississippian Harbor, critically important for their survival. Here's the Marvel Salt Marsh Boardwalk, or Salt Marsh Boardwalk and platform with optics to view the marsh. And here in town, one of the first Bayshore projects that was completed was the design and construction of this kiosk and interpretive signage highlighting the importance of the area for shorebirds, diamondback terrapins, the marshlands, and all that occurs in Slaughter Beach, when Slaughter Beach was also dedicated as a certified community wildlife habitat by the National Wildlife Federation. Most recently, the Delaware Bayshore Initiative contributed additional funds and worked with the town to design new interpretive signs located at each beach access point. Over 18 signs are located throughout town, covering things like the natural beach, horseshoe crabs, shorebirds, and fish and marine life that you would encounter here at Slaughter Beach. But more importantly, it reduced a tremendous amount of sign pollution located at each of these beach access points. And instead of going about telling visitors what they can't do, the signs take a different approach in telling the public what they can do to help. Here are some of the things you can do to help the beaches and help maintain Slaughter Beach to be the community that it's been all these years. Almost to the end of the byway here at Prime Hook National Wildlife in Broadkill Beach. Prime Hook National Wildlife consists of a number of units, 1 through 4. Fowler's Beach, located north of the main unit or the main tract, which is Route 16 here. The headquarters is located here, and Fowler's Beach is actually right up in this area here. Offers tremendous wildlife viewing opportunities, fishing and crabbing opportunities. Just recently, much like the Mississippian Harbor project, the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service provided $38 million to Prime Hook National Wildlife Refuge to restore and repair breaches, major breaches in this dune system right here. Those breaches in those dune systems flooded the impounded wetlands here with salt water directly from the bay, effectively killing all the vegetation, including many of the trees. So if you visit Fowler's Beach, look around as you see all these dead trees, and you'll see that saltwater intrusion can have a very negative effect on these areas when these places like Fowler's Beach are not well protected. The restoration project restored the beach and widened it considerably. In addition, channelized the impoundment here, making tidal flow easier and converting it from a completely freshwater system to a tidal brackish system, which was more natural prior to this impoundment being created for the purposes of mosquito control and waterfowl refuge. Plenty of opportunities in this area for kayak and canoeing. In particular, visit nearby Milton for direct water access. And just to the south, the city of Lewes for even more opportunities for food, lodging, and just general recreation along the beaches. Broadkill Beach and Beach Plum Island are very natural locations. Broadkill Beach is located right here at the end of Route 16. It stops approximately here, actually a little bit further to the south, And from there, it's called Beach Plum Island, part of Cape Henlopen State Park. Beach Plum Island is half open to the public, while the other half of it, extending from about the center point of the beach south to Roosevelt Inlet in Lewes, is closed to all public activity and access, and is the only remaining completely natural beach in the state of Delaware. Some photos of Prime Hook National Wildlife Refuge with the town of Broad Kill Beach in the background. A great beach scene. If you've not visited, Broad Kill Beach is a great place if you're looking to get to somewhere that's not quite as busy as some of our resort towns. Known for hosting thousands of snow geese, you can still witness this spectacle. Not so much on the impoundments anymore, more on the bay and in the fields, but each winter, hundreds of thousands of snow geese call Delaware home. And one of the things that's really impressive is that restoration work that occurred up at Fowler's Beach. Prior to that restoration work, this piping plover, which is also a federally threatened species, was only known to nest in Delaware at Cape Henlopen State Park. Following the restoration of Fowler's Beach, more piping plovers nest there than have ever been documented at Cape Henlopen State Park in any single year. And they've been quite successful, which is great news for them. It's another idea showing the area where Beach Plum Island actually begins. The state park has a parking lot here, plenty of beach access. The town of Broad Kill Beach has one store, the Broad Kill store, where you can find 2 kiosks now loaded with signs such as this one, promoting and educating about the importance of horseshoe crabs and shorebirds. And then in the town of Milton, if you're looking for opportunities there, the Delaware Bayshore Byway offers a connection to get away from some of the more busy Lewes and other more developed city town type activities and offers quiet parkland. Concluding our tour of the Delaware Bayshore Byway brings us to Lewes and Cape Henlopen State Park. And Lewes touts itself as the southern gateway of the Delaware Bayshore. This is where the Delaware Bayshore Byway connects directly with the Lewes Historic Byway and the state park of Cape Henlopen. This is where Delaware's natural history and cultural history really complete the story of the Delaware Bayshore, offering things like the Zwannendale Museum, historic houses of Lewes, the Cape Henlopen Hawk Watch, where each fall, hundreds and hundreds of migrating hawks pass over Cape Henlopen, traveling from Cape May. And of course, the Gordon's Pond Trail, which much like the Mike Castle Trail is a great biking trail, but also a great place to go birding if you're looking to get away during the winter and fall. So with that, I completed my tour and I'd be happy to take any questions. And if we have time, I'd like to share my video. Do we have time?
I think we do. I'm sorry, I have like a background noise going on, but I think we have enough time, but maybe some questions first. I don't know what you want, what order you want to do it.
Sure, I'd be happy to take some questions first.
I have a question, Aunt.
Sure,
This is Sally. I went to the Blackbird Reserve about a month ago to check it out, and it had been completely wrecked by the September tornado, and the paths were completely inaccessible. Do you know what the status is on getting those paths open again?
I don't, because that's managed by the reserve system. Mm-hmm. I don't have any direct management over that facility, but since you're bringing it up, I will reach out to them and I will find out, one, what's the status of the trails, and two, is there any way the Delaware Bayshore Initiative can assist in getting those back open for the public?
That'd be great, because I was amazed at the destruction from the tornado. It was pretty.
Yeah, there's been tremendous destruction throughout that region from those tornadoes we had last year. And a lot of people are still recovering.
I have a question. This is John. Anthony, you said that in, what is it, Broadkill or Plum Island, there's the original Delaware beaches there. It's the most natural beach. What's the difference between that particular beach and the beaches as we see them now? What makes it special besides being original?
Sure. So when I say natural beach, it's a beach that's not touched by people.
Right.
So there, you don't have things like sand replenishment that might occur on some of our beaches. There's no beach raking, there's no shell collecting. If you were to go on a boat tour out of Lewes, you could, and even if you're standing in Beach Plum Island looking south, you'll see the wreck of 2 ships out there. So there's a historical aspect to it as well. And basically, being a natural beach means that we're not going to interfere with the processes that take place out there. Does that answer your question?
Thank you. Yes, thank you. It
You're
does.
welcome.
I have a question. This is Celia Moore. I'm just reading about the efforts at dune restoration down in North Carolina, and one of our favorite places in Avon, North Carolina, on Cape Hatteras. And it's really a losing battle there, despite millions of dollars of annual beach restoration. The dunes are gone. There's a lot of dunes that are just, there used to be 2 dunes, now there's no dune. So when it comes to Fowler's Beach, what are the prospects for that beach restoration being successful? And is it in an area that's apt to be more successful than Atlantic Barrier Island?
Well, I mean, I would say that the Atlantic Barrier Islands are faced with just a tremendous amount of destruction on an annual basis. I wouldn't even call it destruction, just the process of sand moving in and out because of where they're located right on the Atlantic. They're facing the full brunt of the Atlantic, particularly during storms. The nice thing about the Delaware Bayshore beaches is that, yes, they still experience erosion. There are some of them that still receive sand replenishment when they can get it. Unfortunately, sometimes, some of these places just don't have enough beach there. And places like Fowler's, where there wasn't much beach left, resulted in that breach, which didn't just affect the beach. It affected the habitat behind it. It affected the landowners and the farmers that were located behind that, because salt water really gets into the system and can intrude well inland, even if you don't have like a creek or river system there. With the replenishment that they did, with the project they did, I believe they used the material from the Delaware River or Delaware Bay main channel deepening project. And they were able to deposit a lot of very high quality sand material on that beach. It is, I would guess, if I had to guess, and I am not a coastal engineer, that we're looking at a few decades of success here, based on the amount of material they put there and how they designed the project to withstand coastal storms and sea level rise.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I have a question.
Sure.
This is Carol Larson. This is probably outside of your initiative area, but just north of Fox Point Park, the Claymont Steel Mill is being developed, and the developer's offering a considerable acreage to make a park. And we looked at it, and it's possible to connect Naaman's Creek back to the Delaware River to get fish spawning. Can you speak to that and why, if you ever can imagine going north of Newcastle and reconnecting this densely populated our area up here to the Delaware River?
I apologize. I'm not familiar with that, and I'm not quite familiar with the area, so it would be kind of challenging for me to really speak to that. However, I mean, if your interest is trying to make connections, I would recommend contacting our Division of Watershed Stewardship.
Okay.
And maybe there you can call their main number, their main line. You'll have to. I don't have it handy here, but you can easily get it by going to DNREC's.
Oh, I can find it.
Yep. and see if there's someone there that might be able to offer some insight or some recommendations on trying to make those connections, or provide you with some input or other resources that would be valuable in your efforts.
Okay. Thanks.
Can you tell us one more time how to get the conservation access permit?
Sure. You want to go to, again, you want to go to let's see, what's the easiest one is to do a Google search for digital DNREC, DNREC. And that's our online portal for purchasing passes and licenses and all that sort of stuff. And there you can just follow the prompts to either create a profile or log into your profile and purchase a pass. Additionally, if you're not interested in doing it online, you can go to places that sell fishing and hunting licenses, well, hunting licenses for sure, places like Cabela's, Walmart even, and you can purchase a conservation access pass there. We offer two types. There's the annual pass for state residents. I want to say it's $32.50. And then there's a shorter 7-day. It's either a 3-day or 7-day pass. My apologies. I'm not up on my current terms for those passes. If you're out of state, it's basically double.
If I may interject, they're available at Dick's Sporting Goods in Brandywine at the big shopping center.
Yes, thank you.
Show us your film.
Show us the film. All right. I'll go ahead and play it, and please let me know if it's not coming through. Okay, I'll have the volume up, so it should be in good shape here. Bring it over here. Can everyone see that? Thumbs up.
Yes, we've got it. We've got the screen. Yes.
Follow the Delaware River south below Philadelphia into the state that shares its name. Past the urban hum of Wilmington.
I keep the volume.
Yeah, it's too quiet, Anthony.
Okay.
Ancient history. To where it runs,
Better?
and then land on its western shore.
Nope.
And you discover
Can't hear anything.
It worked earlier when we tried it out.
Still nothing?
I think it's a connection problem, I think.
Is it?
Yeah, restart it, I think might help.
All right, I'll give it a shot.
follow the Delaware River south below Philadelphia into the state that shares its name. It's the urban hum of Wilmington. Under the final bridge that spans.
Still not coming through, really. I think it sounds like it's coming through your speaker rather than through the computer.
Yeah. Well, I apologize, folks.
Well,
But-
there is a link that you had mentioned that we
Yep,
could.
I would. So what I'd encourage you to do is, if you're familiar with YouTube, go to YouTube and go to DNREC's YouTube channel. Just type in DNREC in the search bar, and you're going to look for the video Delaware Bayshore Forever. It's about 11 minutes long, and it'll cover a lot of the topics that I talked about here tonight. But one of the great things about it is it really introduces you to some of the local folks throughout the Bayshore region and their passion for this area and the importance of it for our future.
Great. Thank you. Are there any, Sally, you have any questions or any further thoughts? Anybody?
I wanted to thank Anthony because this is an area that I know fairly well, but Anthony showed me places on this that I haven't been to, and some of the new boardwalks and observation towers are brand new. But I would encourage a lot of you to just explore, because we so often run to the beach and never stop anywhere in between. And I know that through my birding over the last 20 years, I've really discovered how wonderful Delaware is. And it's been a gateway. It's been a gateway into a part of Delaware that I never knew existed. And it's what makes Delaware really special. Thanks, Anthony. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having
much.
us. And I do hope that everybody does get a chance to get out there. Please do visit. I tell you, you know, I can't be more enthusiastic about the Delaware Bayshore region. In fact, I just moved into it just a couple of years ago, just so I could be that much closer. And it's just such a special place that, you know, we work so hard to maintain, preserve, and provide access for people to visit and enjoy. And I just want everybody to get out here and take advantage of it.
That's great. Thank you so much for coming and for presenting your knowledge and your willingness to speak. We love it.
Thanks for having me.
Exciting projects going on. So thank
Yes.
you.
Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you very much.
Road trip.
Yeah.
Thank you, everyone, and we'll see you next month.
All right.
Thanks.
Be
Patty.
scholarly.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Thanks.